Class, good morning and welcome to the last day of January. We're going to talk about chapter 3 today. We'll get into that shortly. Just a few housekeeping things. Um, I did post a new forum. It's regarding social media responsibility, particularly in light of the helicopter accident that happened last Sunday in California involving Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and the other passengers. So please take the time to respond to that. And you don't always have to have new thoughts to get a grade for the forum. You can start a discussion off of someone else's post. As long as we're interacting in the forum, you'll get credit for participation. Second thing, we had a couple members join our class. They've been assigned to groups, so make sure you're working with them and your groups are working towards everything that's due this semester. With that, that's our housekeeping. Let's share our slides and get going for today. So today we're looking at information systems, organizations, and strategy. Here we're really going to look at the organization, what makes up an organization, two views to the organization. We'll look at some disruptive technologies and what that's all about. We'll look at how an organization interacts with its environment, build upon what we've learned already about IS and IT innovation. Like I said, we're going to look at what features in organizations do managers need to know about to build systems. We need to look at the impact of information systems. You have to know Porter's competitive forces model, and we'll see a lot of that on our midterm. We'll see what challenges we have as IS/IT professionals relating to change, culture, and politics. Our homework for this case is the NBA video competing on a global delivery with Akamai. Akamai is a website hosting company. A lot of huge companies use them. And this really shows the impact of the internet and globalization on an organization like the NBA partnering with Akamai. Quite interesting. So IT in the organization is the view we seen last week, where IT sits in the middle of management, organization, and systems. We really influence what happens in an organization, and the organization really influences us. However, IT should never act without input from the organization, whereas the organization can really run without interaction with us. So some relationships that are influence in IT direction are organization structure. You can think of that as the hierarchy, as well as how we break ourselves up into organizational units, business processes, how we do our job, politics, the view we see on the job we do in the organizational unit, culture, our environment, and that's not just the weather related environment, that's anything that plays a factor on our organization. Lastly, how we make decisions and how we enable people to make. All relationships that get developed in ITIS are two-dimensional, are two-way. There's always a give and take. We'll see in the database chapter that relationships are one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many, but they're always recursive. And that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing the organization impacts the IT impacts the organization by all those mediating factors we had just talked about and we'll build upon coming up. So, what is an organization? There's two approaches, a technical and a behavioral. However, I believe there's one definition that combines both. So to have an organization, you need a formal structure. We have to have some kind of inputs from our environment and an output back into our environment. It's a formal legal entity, has its own rules and procedures and social structure. But it's also related to its people. If you remember me talking last week, I believe two most important assets in an organization are its people and its data. Well, its people should have a collection of rights, privileges, obligations, and responsibilities um, that have to be balanced. And we balance it through conflict resolution and our openness and our willingness to change. So some more features of an organization. It uses a hierarchical structure. So by using a hierarchical structure, you can't really say a one-person organization is really an organization, um, although it may have its own authority system, its own governance, how we can become efficient, really covered in governance. It may have its own routines and processes. Can one person have politics, culture? We all have culture. We can't have politics really with each other. We do have an environment. So I'm going to say an organization has to have more than one employee. But we use a top down approach. We have who's accountable. It's kind of why I put in the social media accountability forum this week, because everyone in an organization, from the lowest to the lower to the CEO, has a responsibility to the organization. They have a means to be kept accountable. Usually, we hold employees accountable by doing performance appraisals. You can see how much money you're going to get the following year based on your performance, based on how well you're adhering to rules, routines, business processes, how you fit into an organization's culture. So routines are what we do every day. They're things we typically will look to automate. And automate is using computers to do basic routine jobs. Talked about business processes, they're really a collection of routines. In layman's terms, it's how you do your job. A business firm or an organization is a collection of business processes. I hope you can tell that an organization's business processes are an asset. We can't put a tangible value on it. However, process makes up everything we do in an organization, and frankly, it makes up everything we do in IT and IS. We'll build solutions, we'll train users, and we'll maintain systems based on processes. Organizational politics. Much like with their 2020 campaign going on in US politics, it's divergent viewpoints that lead to struggle, competition, and conflict. It happens in organizations every day based on our own self awareness of where we should fit in an organization. I work at Greystone Programs. The revenue generating department is called residential. Um, they feel they have more importance in the organization over everyone else. A, they're the biggest group of employees. B, they're the biggest group of people that use technology. C, they generate the revenue. However, my view is every part of an organization has the same importance. But getting that through to people is vastly different. We were in a class, say, I typically have this class in Hancock. I would break the room up by rows, give them a different organizational job. I would have HR, IT, production, sales and marketing, accounting, facilities, people, maybe a surveillance analytical department, and give the groups a little time to discuss what their role would be. And then each one would come out and say how they're more important than the other. So political resistance really hurts IT in making changes. It's hard to push through change because you have to cater to one group over another, and then that group's going to get mad, and so on and so on. So it takes a long time to get IS. Give me a second. I will point out if any of you are on campus, the best deal around in Poughkeepsie is the dollar any size coffee at McDonald's. My son to the doctor's today in Poughkeepsie, and he wanted some breakfast there, so I grabbed a coffee. Didn't realize $1, so quite happy. Culture. It's a set of assumptions that define a goal and a product. What products an organization should produce, how it should be produced, whom it's produced for. At Greystone, how we treat our residents, how we treat our employees, how we interact with the Chamber of Commerce, what areas we want to help people in, things like that. A culture should be a unifying force, but a culture could also limit what we do moving forward because we're so tied to what our culture is, we don't see the need to change or grow. Organizational environment. Again, it's a reciprocal relationship. There's give and take. It's a social and a physical environment. An organization, if it's working correctly, should influence their environment. Environments change faster than an organization. And systems should deliver the ability to act as a lens, as this slide shows. So this shows a typical organization with all its external environmental factors. We have government, our competitors, our customers, financial institutions, culture, knowledge, and technology in the firm. So let's kind of look at our Marist campus. And we see that we're governed by New York State and U.S. government rule for colleges, sexual harassment laws, violence laws, bullying laws, um, governed by the NCA for how we interact with our student athletes. Um, and there's probably hundreds that I don't even know about. Let's look at competitors. Who are Marist competitors? I'm just going to look at the general environment around Poughkeepsie. We have Bard, we have Vassar, we have Dutchess Community College, we have Mount St. Mary's, we have Ulster Community College or Orange Community College. Pretty tight competition. I don't consider the United States Military Academy a competitor to Marist other than in the athletic field. Totally different breed of customer that will look to West Point. So look at our standing as an online college. We're one of the top 20 online colleges in the U.S. So now every college in the U.S. that has an online program is a competitor. So our environment is not stuck in Poughkeepsie, New York. It's worldwide. Our customers are you, our students, or people that pay for any kind of services we have on campus. Could be alumni using gym services. It could be customers for sporting events or theatrical events or our fashion show. Financial institutions could be banking that Marist uses or financial aid resources that you all may use. Marist has a very unique culture. It includes students not wanting to talk with their professors in class. Speaking of that, I had a technology in the 21st century course last semester where I introduced a topic to them. They're mostly freshmen and sophomores. It was a paper done by a student who had just finished their first year, and it was 5 things that they wish they would have done. One of them was to have a relationship with their professor. Whether it's an online class or a traditional class, it's very important that you get to know your professor, let them get to know you. Ultimately, he or her will help you when you need it or be an advocate when you need it. Lastly, knowledge and technology affect our firm. So disruptive technologies. Easy way to think of this is We're using something, something comes about that's better than what we were using. Now we change it. So examples it says here are PCs, smartphones, big data, AI, and the internet. Well, let's look at personal computers. What did personal computers do that was better than what was there before? What was there before were word processors and typewriters. And we all know we have input and output pretty much the same in both, but now we have compute. Now we can calculate. Smartphones have disrupted things like MP3 players, um, cameras, regular cell phones. Big data, I'm going to disagree with the author as it's a disruptive technology. It's a different technology that enables social media. AI is actually replacing people. It's helping us make better, faster decisions, shrinking our organization, much like the question I posed last week with AI in the NFL. Lastly, the internet. So, our lecture question or embedded question is: in your lifetimes, list me three things that were around 5 to 10 years ago that have now been disrupted. And you can easily look at the internet and find technologies since you were maybe in middle school to now that have changed that make your lives better, faster, more efficient. There's five types of structure, and you'll read about them in your text: entrepreneurial, machine bureaucracy, divisionalized bureaucracy, professional bureaucracy, and adhocracy. And IS reflects any type of organization that it's really in. Other features in an organization are goals. So we can't have business processes or jobs without goals. We need something to strive for. We need a strategic plan that offers goals to our organization so we know where we go. We need goals at the operational level to be able to maintain our day to day. Other things are leadership styles, tasks, and other environments that may affect us. Economic impacts of IT. IT changes relative cost of capital and cost of information. So our capital costs go up, but our cost of information should go down. Whether we're using virtual technology or physical technology, our investment is going to be greater than what we had before. But our cost per transaction should go down, so we hope to break even here. Technology is a factor of production like capital and labor, and that's true. IT affects the cost and quality of information and changes economics of information. Like what I said, we should cut transaction costs. Outsourcing. We'll see outsourcing a lot this semester. It's a process of taking jobs from our organization and hire another company to do it. You may say, Al, why would you ever do that? Well, particularly in IT, we don't really want to spend so much on IT payroll because, like you said, it's a cost center, and we're never going to really fully quantify the dollars spent on IT versus our run rate. So, what do? We keep IT employees at a minimum, we keep our salary and our fringe benefits down, and we pay other companies to do tasks that we're not experts in. We outsource things like development or network or security um, or database management, either in country or out of country, based on quality of service, service level agreements, and price, so that we can spend payroll dollars and benefit dollars on our core business. So if you look at Greystone, I outsource a great deal of things that we do. I really only have our help desk and end user support directly reporting to me. The rest I manage through outsourcing agreements because Greystone really doesn't have the funds to hire multiple IT people. but we can pay monthly costs for service contracts. Transaction cost theory, sorry, really goes into what I said before. The systems we put in place should lower transaction costs, making it worthwhile for firms to transact with other firms rather than grow the number of employees. Agency theory, meaning we experience costs for managing and supervising our employees as our firm grows. IT should be able to help us minimize that cost by enabling more people to make decisions and actually empowering people who typically wouldn't make decisions, shrinking our organization, as we're seeing here. The hierarchy above is a traditional hierarchy. It's tiered, starting with probably the CEO, followed by the rest of our C suite, followed by a couple levels of middle management, followed by our operations. What you see now, we've enabled our operational people to manage themselves, or we have operational managers still managing our day to day workers. But now we've given those workers, those managers, the ability to make decisions. So, what has it done? It gets rid of our middle layer of management, and now we're condensed into strategic people and day to day. So, I hope you can realize the labor savings here would be astronomical if this could really happen in organizations, and it does. It's what happened when I worked at Syncora Guarantee. I was a middle manager there, a vice president. We had some other VPs in IT. When our company stopped writing new business, we focused our energies on just paying off our deals. So we didn't need as many people running our operation. We could train junior people to make the decisions of middle managers. And I was the last IT middle manager to go. We had 7 before me. But we enabled our junior people to be able to make those decisions so they could ultimately let us go and cut their payroll rates. Ultimately, we're just sold last month. They haven't wrote business in 7 or 8 years. Change happens, A, because people don't want to change. They like the status quo. They don't want to affect their routine or processes. Or B, there's political or cultural influence in play that's making us not want to change. Again, using Greystone, 2017, I was tasked with moving our paper workload to electronic format. I've only just fully realized the potential of that system this past November because our finance department was not wanting to fully go electronic in their processing of payments to vendors. So that political struggle led for my system that should have been done in 6 months to take almost 2 years to fully implement organizationally. Internet increases accessibility to everything. It cuts the cost of storage, it cuts the cost of transactions, it cuts the cost of distribution of information, it cuts the cost of communicating to not only our employees but anyone else in our environment. We'll see the internet enables us to have a local interaction with our environment or expand our environment to a worldwide one. We're going to look more at designing information systems both in our database chapter and our last 3 chapters of semester, but things we look at are our structure, meaning not really the people in our hierarchy, but how each part does their jobs. Because we're then going to build our applications based on how you do your jobs. Then we're going to look at culture and politics and then go back to our hierarchy at the C level and get some kind of sponsorship. We need to know the type of organization we have, like we talked about here. We're going to have less resistance to change with an entrepreneurial organization than we would a professional bureaucracy. Professional bureaucracy is like a law firm or a medical. We look at the type of leadership style. Hands-on leaders, always in your face leaders are not going to want to change the way they do things. We're leaders that enable their employees to learn and grow, reward our employees, will be more receptive to change. We have to get buy-in with our end users. That's the key to any design and implementation of a system. They have to know it's sponsored by, they mean end users, have to know that it's sponsored by the C level. They're expected to adhere to what we put out there, but they have to know the benefits of the new system by being involved in its design, its programming, its testing, and ultimately its implementation. Because in fact, some of their processes or jobs could greatly change because of the that we put into place. For this competitive model, I want you to focus on the forces that are put on organizations. Traditional competitors, and we can use Marist again. We talked about our traditional competitors, things like Vassar and Bard. New market entries could be University of Phoenix or Southern New Hampshire, both with big online offerings. Substitute products and services could be trade schools. Customers, that's you guys. Suppliers could be anyone that supplies anything on campus, or people like me who are part-time employees who get contracts every semester. We can go through the slides as I just really talked about them. How do we deal with competition? Well, we could be a low-cost leader. What's that mean? Let's just look at the retail space here. A low-cost leader is Walmart. They're going to be cheaper than your Targets of the world or any stores you see in, say, mall. Internet e-commerce are low-cost leaders, Amazon. Product differentiation. What makes our product better than another? I'm currently wearing an Under Armour sweatshirt. What makes it better than a Nike one? Well, I don't know. I like the design. I like the UA logo. This one is meant for cold temperatures, and it's a bit more cost friendly than Therma from Nike. Focus on our market niche. What are we doing? Do we maintain what we're doing? Okay, think of, let me give an example. Going out. I used to give an example of a small local computer shop where they're known for they can custom make PCs, they can fix computers, they can do maintenance. But can they really compete with, say, a low cost leader with Best Buy? No, they can't. So we're not going to really focus in that small computer shop on buying new PCs. We may, or selling new PCs, I should say. We may focus on selling used PCs that we've rebuilt and made like new, or the day-to-day service that we offer. And lastly, strengthen our customer and supplier intimacy. Remember, that's one of our goals to putting systems in place anyway. Internet's impact and competitive advantage. Again, I'll give you a little hint here on what some things that the internet's impacted. Travel agencies. Do we still use travel agencies to book travel? Some do, some don't. They're not totally gone. The printed encyclopedia. I'm betting many of you have never even touched one. They're the main source for me to get information when even I was your age, or media itself. Competitive forces are still at work, but rivalry more intense. Where do we see that? Let's look at Netflix and Disney. Hulu is direct competition with Netflix. And what does Disney do? They throw Disney Plus and ESPN into the mix. They bundle all three for $12, and now look at all that content you can get over the $7 or whatever you pay for Netflix. Universal standards allow new rivals and entrants to the market. What's that mean? We have a few web browsers. A web browser is a means to look at content on the internet. We have a universal standard called TCP/IP, Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol. These web pages I reference typically use HTTP or Hypertext Transfer Protocol or the secure version of that. So there's very low cost of entry to the web page. Thus, we can have new rivals. We can have new entrants to the market. We can have what's called shareware or freeware or open source applications or operating systems that we can, without cost, that we can make changes to as long as we share it. And lastly, because of our global reach, we have new opportunities for building our brand and our customer bases. That's really the foundation of NBA Video, building their brand worldwide while maintaining who their real their loyal customer base is. Smart things. Um, Later today or next week, I'm going to show you, I'm going to put up a screenshot from my work phone on our smart home in Montgomery, New York, all the devices I control from it. I can kind of show you here. We use smart things from Samsung, and I'm not sure how clearly you can see any of this. Nope. But we tried. I can control all the real infrastructure of this house. I have motion sensors, I have light switches, I have dimmer switches, I have water leak sensors, I have a water main valve, I have thermostats or will have thermostats. I will have oil tank controllers. I can control all my appliances. We're trying to do this to all of our homes, the 17 or so we have to do in Greystone. If you look at the fourth bullet, it raises switching costs. There's not much additional cost when you're building a new home like we did with our Montgomery home or Armenia home. But the cost of putting in smart technologies in an existing home will be quite high for us. So we have a bit of added cost there. It should give us a competitive advantage over our rivals, though, because we're providing safer, more efficient homes that will enable our staff in our homes, called direct care workers or DSPs, direct support professionals, to have a hands-on relationship with our residents rather than always having to cook, clean, check temperature of things, monitor oil tanks and stuff. Synergies. When the output of some units is based on the input of others. And we'll look at the purchase of YouTube by Google. What this means is Google, before it bought YouTube, was simply a search engine. Gmail may have been out by then, I think it was. They were kind of like Yahoo, they were at equal market share for searching. Then Google bought YouTube. They started streaming content, user content. The key purchase for YouTube, I mean for Google, sorry, in that the purchase of YouTube enabled all the collaboration tools that Google is now. Without YouTube, there'd be no Google Maps. There'd be no Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google this, Google that. Core competency. It's an activity that we're a world class leader in. It relies on knowledge, experience, and sharing everything across a business unit. Excuse the phone ringing. I'm recording this from home today. Um, Sorry, that's my son's school calling asking where he is, but I'll get to it later. Here's another thing you can add. Who called me during the video? And I'm sorry about that. And there's probably going to be a message coming up too. Who are some world-class leaders in the world today? You can look at Nike. What do they do better? They make a more comfortable ride shoe. Yeah. Sorry about the interruption. I can't control when people call. I'm greatly sorry about that. Network-based strategies where we take advantage of a firm's ability to network with one another. So networking is how we interact with those in our environment. I'm going to take this down a stretch and look at how you all network or how I network. Networking used to be pretty hard. You'd have to join these groups and you'd meet personally and such. Nowadays, LinkedIn was created as a networking tool. You may have colleagues, you may have friends on LinkedIn, but more often than not, it's used for fostering relationships to make our jobs easier. Network economics. It's really showing the value of the community grows with their size. The value of software grows as more customers use it. It's really what I want you to know here. The value of a network, two or more computers, grows as we add more computers to that network. The cost of adding those computers drops as we add because the cost of procuring them goes down. More people using software that we write. More people want to subscribe to the software, more people will use it. We look at Office 365. When it first came out, it was about $100 a year. Now you can get accounts for free because, well, basic accounts, because their customer base is so high and so many corporations utilize Office 365, much like we do here. A virtual company is exactly that. It doesn't have a brick and mortar presence. It uses networks to align with other companies. And we'll see the virtual model in play when we look at the upstream part of a company's supply chain. Like Li and Feng here, they manage the production shipment of garments for major fashion companies. They're located in Asia, no brick and mortar presence, but its employees work in manufacturing facilities and ship products to all your major fashion companies. All the work is outsourced, so they have very few real employees. Challenges posed by strategic information systems. How do we stay better than our opponents? Our systems may help us ultimately survive and maintain a competitive advantage. We have to make sure we're aligning IT with our business. Um, Doing so will result in failure, as I've talked about already, with a deal system that is an Excel Capital Assurance. Managing transitions, adopting systems requires us to change maybe our goals. It changes our business plan, our model. It will definitely change our processes. It may change how we interact with our customers and suppliers. Ultimately, may cause our systems to fail. And that's going to be it for this week. Remember, our lecture question is: in your lifetimes, list me three things that were around 5 to 10 years ago that have now been disrupted. Okay. And that's going to be it for this week, guys. Again, I apologize for my son's school calling. We'll call it a day. So have a great weekend or week, depending on when you're watching this. Take care.